So depending on what version you're currently running, you do have some new reporting options. If, let's say that your environment currently is only using reporting services in Excel, you definitely have some new reporting options just by adding SharePoint. And depending on the version of SQL Server that you're running in the background, you can also get some additional reporting options. So outside of SharePoint, you just have reporting services in Excel. Inside of SharePoint, you also gain access to things like PerformancePoint and PowerView. If you're using Office 2013, PowerView is obviously something that's included inside of Excel, but if not, you can still use Reporting Services 2012 with SharePoint 2010 and get some of those PowerView options there as well. So you do have some options for additional reporting. And finally, it reduces the workstation software needs. So what I mean by that is, let's say that I create an Excel document and or a PowerPivot workbook. I can push that out to SharePoint and share it with everybody in the entire enterprise at the click of a button, rather than having to go and have everybody install PowerPivot on their computers, or everybody have SharePoint or Excel 2010. Maybe a lot of people have 2007, but some of the power users have Excel 2010. So not everybody has to be working with the same version of the Office suite. So it's a great way to be able to have everybody develop on their workstation, yet everybody else in the organization, regardless of software requirements, to be able to view those documents. Okay, so those are just a couple of the reasons why you might want to use SharePoint for business intelligence. You know, like I said, you get some consolidated reporting. You do have some other report options, and believe it or not, one of the really big selling points on that is the ability to push those documents out there to SharePoint and reduce some of that workload from the workstation, so that everybody doesn't have to have those same versions of Office on their computer. Okay, the nice thing about SharePoint is it actually has a built-in site template called the Business Intelligence Center, which you'll see a screenshot of right there inside the slide deck. Essentially, all these SharePoint features are just SharePoint, or everything here that we're going to look at really is just SharePoint features that we enable in the background. So you can turn on or off PerformancePoint, you can turn on and off PowerPivot, you can turn on and off the reporting services add-in. So you can actually take a blank site and turn it into a business intelligence center by just enabling some key features here and there. But SharePoint is has a nice little template for you to be able to just do that. It's got everything already, all the features that you need enabled, and it also has some document libraries out there. You'll see that we've got some dashboards and data connection libraries and PerformancePoint content, just to be able to get you started on your BI adventure here. Okay, so that's a little bit about why you might want to use SharePoint for BI. The next thing we're going to talk about here is PerformancePoint, and then we'll get into a little bit of a demo for you. Okay, so PerformancePoint offers some advantageous development for you. So there's which you'll see here in just a second inside the dashboard designer, it's a very drag and drop report development environment, and once you have your analysis services set up. If you have any PowerPivot workbooks out there, you can actually connect PerformancePoint directly to a PowerPivot workbook and use that as though it was essentially like an SSRS cube. If you're running SQL Server 2012, you can also connect PerformancePoint out to your tabular instance as well. The reports are highly interactive, so users can go out there and you'll see a dashboard that I'm going to show you guys here in just a minute, and I can drastically change or drill into a very deep level of the details behind the data that's shown on my dashboard. So it's not like reporting services where everything is pretty static unless I build some drill-through actions or I build something that goes to another intranet site or something like that. Once you see this PerformancePoint dashboard, you're going to see that I can do a lot of data manipulation on there and go do a lot of exploration on my own just by clicking around on things. There is one downside, however, to PerformancePoint, and that's the fact that there's not a high level of customization, where you can't really customize a whole lot of things. So if you want something where you want all your graphs to match your company color, you want to toss your company logo on it in a particular spot, you get those users that get their reports and they send it back to you and say, oh, I need this table moved over 18 pixels to the left and this one down 2 pixels. You can't customize PerformancePoint like that. What you see with PerformancePoint is pretty much what you get. It goes so far as to not even be able to customize the color of your the lines on your bar charts. So in some situations that may or may not be a deal breaker, but just know that there is the one very big limitation of PerformancePoint is the fact that it does not have very high customization. And finally, we're going to use the dashboard designer to create all of our PerformancePoint content. So you can actually embed different things like Excel services reports inside of your dashboard, but if you want to build native PerformancePoint content, it's all going to be done using the dashboard designer. So you don't do it like reporting services. You would use data tools or bids depending on the version. Everything here is going to be done in Dashboard Designer. There's nothing third-party to download. It all comes directly from SharePoint. It will download a Dashboard Designer file from SharePoint. However, there's nothing really big to go download and install. It's actually a very lightweight installation for that. Okay, so let's go over to my SharePoint environment here, and we'll take a look at actually developing. I'll show you guys a dashboard here that's been created inside of PerformancePoint, and then I'll show you guys real quick how to create some of this PerformancePoint content before we move on to the next piece. So this is going to be your basic SharePoint or PerformancePoint dashboard here. You can see that we have a grid or an analytic grid up here in the top right. We've got a scorecard that can display some KPIs for you down here in the bottom left, and then up here in the top left we just have your standard bar chart. So at first glance, it's a pretty standard dashboard. Nothing too crazy. KPIs are pretty common to put on here. One of the really cool things though about your PerformancePoint dashboards is I can actually build it so that if I click on Australia here, my other elements inside of my dashboard can update and only show me Australia data, for instance. Or if I click on Canada, it'll only show me Canadian information on these other two pieces. So one of the really cool things about, and this goes back to that interactivity piece of it, one of the really cool things about PerformancePoint is the fact that you can make all the pieces in here work together. So again, I have this filter up here at the top. If I only want to look at North America data, I can apply that. And you'll notice here that my chart has updated to with all sales territories if I uncheck the correct boxes. You'll notice United Kingdom is not North America. I'm not trying to bamboozle anybody out there. But once I filter that down to North America, you'll see everything else here on my dashboard has updated to only be North America data.